Welcome to Human Design Mastery. We are part of waving that standard of everyone being different and being able to work in accordance with your genetic potential to be yourself in business, especially. Today is a part of our presentation that's going to help you understand your own genetic blueprint. So make sure that you get your Human Design BodyGraph and have it handy, because we're going to be helping you get to your leadership success. Leadership success begins with you, although it's not necessarily all about you. It is about ensuring that you're making decisions that you can trust. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to help you learn how to do generally, but also we're going to go deep into an aspect of the human design system knowledge that is one of my favorite things to teach because it's so practical and it's so valuable. So again, make sure that you have your human design BodyGraph. MyBodyGraph.com is going to give you a free version of your chart if you'd like to. If you need a new chart, just go ahead and run that yourself. It'll open up and you'll be able to see your own human design chart. And hopefully you'll be able to follow along even if you're brand new. Now, if you're not brand new and it's still somewhat new to you, maybe you even finished the personal success series that we just went into or completed last month, I want to let you know that there's going to be a lot more information in store as well if you continue on in the journey with us into leadership success, so that you can continue to unlock the work success keys of your human design. When it comes to being a solopreneur, we want you to grow without the guesswork. Isn't it fun to be able to have these little secret key codes when it comes to playing the game of life? I'm one of those people who loves to play the game of business. If anybody else out there loves to be in charge of your own money-making, material success potential, you're in the right place, because this is one of the things that I love to help people to do. And so that you can grow without the guesswork, we're going to use your genetic mapping, your blueprint, to use those human design success keys in business. It's about these 4 different work situations or the working context that you find yourself in physically. Okay, so physically, are you designed best to work on your own, solo, in partnership, small group, or large group? Now, we're going to take the primary 3 different concepts that I want you to understand and explore with me today with your human design BodyGraph. And you're going to be able to see at least the big picture and some of the deeper nuanced details too for your solopreneur work endeavors. Now, that again means whether or not you're going to work best on your own, physically, in your own aura, or not. And so this has to do with your productivity. When it comes to anybody, we can all obviously work, but is it going to be working away in a position or a job that you hate? Or is it going to be working, coming to work, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, happy to be where you are and doing the work that you love to do? That's a very big difference, okay? So if you're, as an example, not built for the large group, and you're trying to fit yourself into that large group work context, well, it's like pushing a boulder uphill, or worse, pushing a river uphill, quite impossible to do. So what I want for you is to be able to understand that today we're talking about physicality. Where are you going to be most physically satisfied, peaceful, successful, surprised? As far as your genetic potential, the spirit of abundance that arises from inside. This is the thing that is going to make such a difference in your work. So we're going to dive right in. Anybody else have problems working solo? Raising my hand because I do. Anybody else? Problems working solo? Sometimes when it comes to working solo, you're not productive enough. You don't have enough energy. It's hard to get going. You feel a little lost. If you're working at home, anybody else working at home, you've got maybe distractions happening, or there's some problems because you just kind of need some other people's input and there's nobody physically there to help as far as the dynamic of you getting it done, being your own boss, doing your own thing. And some of us are way more genetically inclined to be able to do things independently, while others of us are like, no, we need to have that engagement physically with others. So that's my objective for all of you today to walk away at the end of this next hour with some really practical things to experiment with and to know about yourself. Now, this is just scratching the surface as far as the 3 big picture viewpoints that I want to take you through. We're going to start with your definition. Definition in the Human Design Body Graph is showing us the situational contexts of how you're best designed to assimilate information. So how is your design wired to operate? And so we're going to go through all of these. Some of these are way more rare than others. Most of you are going to be in either this single or basic split category. So we'll spend a lot of time there. But we'll also talk about a triple split or 3 areas of definition, a quadruple split, very rare, actually more rare than someone who has no definition. So 4 areas of definition, way more rare, like 0.5% of the population versus no definition, 1.5%, okay? So the vast majority of us are going to be over here. And we're also going to talk about type today. So it'll be a review for those of you who are familiar with your type. And we're going to go into the nuances, some of the subtleties that are quite big, heavy hitters when it comes to your genetic potential being appropriate for you, depending on the solo work context, whether you're at home in your own aura, or maybe you're one of those people that already got the hint that you don't like working alone. And so you're working in one of those, what do they call those? Like an office, you know, where you rent an office, but there's a whole bunch of people around you working too. That might be one of the temporary stopgaps for you to experiment with. So again, we're going to use your genetic potential. Human design helps us understand our genetic blueprint. You have a blueprint for your life, an operating system. And when you understand the operating system, you're going to be able to unlock the success secrets of your human design. So this is the first step that is going to help you understand whether or not you're genetically wired to be productive, satisfied, peaceful, successful, surprised when it comes to business. So using this human design system, it can help you. It's going to help you be able to protect yourself when it comes to how you're designed to operate so that you don't get lost in the shadows, the distortions, the sensitivities, the vulnerabilities of your design, so that your mind doesn't get distracted by all of those shiny objects that may be pulling you away from, let's say, focusing and concentrating on the thing that really makes you unique and different. And that's the most magical thing I can tell you when it comes to using your human design. And in these 4 work contexts, these 4 different ways we can operate, one of the things I'll tell you as far as solopreneurship is concerned, I'm also considering people who maybe you do work for somebody as an independent contractor, like I do for Jovian Archive, source of the human design system, but you're also working at home in your own aura. So this is going to include those of you who work remotely. How many people are working remotely? Mostly, or maybe all the time. There's a lot of us, and that number is only going to keep increasing as we continue on marching through space and time towards 2027, the background frequency shifting to where that is actually a normal thing when it comes to our workplace endeavors. So with the workplace success, I'm going to give you the secret keys to what Rock called comparative analysis. Now that may sound kind of confusing if you don't know what we're talking about here. It's human design analysis and comparing your body graph to the different workplace set and settings for your material success potential. So you're going to be looking at solo today. In a few days, we'll do a small group, and then next week we're going to do partnership. If it's something that is right for you to continue to explore with us, I warmly invite you to this free series when it comes to your success at the workplace or in business, in your career. Okay, so when we talk about solopreneur, again, remember, please, I'm talking about you physically in your own aura. So that means 2 arms lengths distance away from another person. Okay, so animals don't count. Your animal can't do your accounting, as an example. I do remember asking that way back in the day in like 2013 of my analyst. Like, does an animal count? I'm at home alone all the time, but I've got this dog. Sorry, dogs actually don't really count as far as having somebody physically in your aura. We're talking about humans that you work with. Okay, humans that you work with. So, solopreneur, that's our topic of discussion today. Please keep your questions to being a solopreneur in your own physical aura, okay? And that will keep things a lot more clean when it comes to, and less confusing when it comes to our work endeavor for resolving any problems or issues you have with productivity. Now, again, it includes entrepreneurs of all kinds that I'm talking to, independent contractors, gig workers, whatever you want to call yourself, you're working at home in your own aura. And this is actually not an accident. It's one of the things that we're moving towards in 2027 to 2439. We are going to be experiencing the ramifications of going to or through the cross of the sleeping phoenix as a background frequency. And these are the activations that we're shifting into. So you can see that it is a very different combination of gate activations from the old cross of planning that we are leaving behind. And if you want more information about that, obviously you can go to jovianarchive.com and search. There's tons of information, or you can find lots of our information on YouTube as well if you're interested in this topic. Now, when we talk about definition, we're looking, again, this is still that cross of the sleeping phoenix that I have activated here in the BodyGraph. When we talk about definition, we're really speaking to the nature of how you're genetically wired to be different. So if you look down at your BodyGraph, think of your BodyGraph like a business, and this blueprint, this mapping, is like a circuit board. So there's a number of different ways that people are going to be defined based on the planetary activations at the moment of your birth and about 90 days before, 88 degrees of the sun's movement before you were born. And that's your conscious personality. It will be in black on the right-hand side. Your unconscious design is your physical body imprinting. Okay, so those are both brought together where we can see your genetic wiring, your mapping. Whether you have this or that or the other, it's not good, bad, right, wrong. There are advantages and disadvantages to all of it, depending on the work context set and setting that you find yourself in. So primarily, it's going to help us understand how you are wired to work, as well as how you are designed to interpret information that is coming in at all sides around you. Okay, so basically, we're looking at these different ways that you are defined to function. Your information assimilation or your processing style, whether it be single, basic split, triple split, quadruple split, or none. So if you have one of these rarers, don't worry, we'll get there. It'll take a little bit of time, but we'll get there. It's important that we see the single and basic split are the vast majority of the population together. We have single, split, and then just 14% of the triples, okay, around that. So we're looking at definition, your genetic wiring, to see if we can find how you're here to be successful when you're working in your own aura, as in how are you here to be materially productive or having benefit when it comes to being your own boss, especially being in charge of your own sovereignty, your own genetic nature. In these dynamics of going solo or working solo, first of all, it's got to be right for you. If you're working at your desk in your own aura with no one else around, does that make you happy? Do you feel satisfied, successful, peaceful, surprised because you have the ability to focus and concentrate and be able to be fully present and on board, no distractions, no disturbances? Maybe it's something that you really enjoy. Anybody else really enjoy being your own boss, doing your own thing? You're going to be able to count on yourself if you know yourself. So this is the most important thing. When you work remotely, by phone, by computer, by internet, however it is that you're creatively engaging with life and being in your business for yourself, it is going to be helpful if you know what strengths you can rely upon. So if you don't know your strengths, how on earth are you going to leverage or take advantage of them? And that's one of the things that you learn in personal success for business. So when you're working solo, remember, it has to be that you are your own authority, meaning you know how to make decisions that are right for you to do, that you can utilize your strategy, honoring yourself as your own personal authority. And this brings out the nature of sovereignty and abundance from within you. So we call that strategy and authority, or the operating keys, the operating system to this genetic wiring, your blueprint. If you have trouble with that, mybodygraph.com gives you the first step free of understanding these basic keys. So you can go ahead and read that, listen to Ra as he explains, because he is the creator, founder, first messenger of the human design system. So now we're going to go into determining your productivity. When it comes to working solo, your productivity levels, it's going to be different for everybody. I mean, I've been up since 3:30. Oops, have a bit of a trouble sleeping sometimes. And so obviously there's going to be other considerations or factors when it comes to how productive you are. If you didn't get a good night's sleep, if you didn't eat well, if you are experiencing any health challenges, obviously we want to get to the root cause if you're having adrenal fatigue or any kind of brain fog or challenges when it comes to peak performance. It's one of the things that I love exploring. So do keep that in mind. It's not just this one thing, but it is this thing, this definition thing, that's going to help you understand how to process information. Okay, let's take a little quote from Ra before we move on. Ra says, "What we have been able to learn from the revealed mechanics is an understanding of how we can navigate on this plane in such a way that we get to live out our true potential, the potential of the form, the potential of our vehicles, because it is the vehicle, the body, which is the life. It is the vehicle that empowers the life force. When you're operating correctly, what you're doing is enriching the potential of this holistic being because you bring out the essence of yourself. It's there in the channel. So those lines between those centers, we call them these genetic wirings that we're seeing for the central vortices of information or hubs of energy. There are lines between those centers and those we call channels. And those are the things that generally people take for granted. Like they're completely oblivious to the fact that it's there. They may not be aware. Anything you see in red as a channel, you're unaware of it, not consciously, unless enough people pointed it out to you and said, hey, did you know you're really inspiring, LaVeena? Did you know that you're a great teacher? And indeed, it took me a few years to get there, but it does feel really different when the body is operating in alignment, when it's operating correctly. So thanks to Ra, we have tons of clues and tips and tricks and techniques and keys to understanding our wiring. So again, we're going to look at our genetic blueprint, all the different ways that are possible, depending on how you are designed to take in information. So we're going to begin first with a single definition. If you have a single definition, you are somebody who may work very well solo. There is an exception here, okay? The exception is that it depends on your type, and that's the next place we're going to go. So when it comes to one area in the body graph that is connected up to each other, so you may have two or more centers, so long as you can put your finger on one of those centers and follow that, this is a channel, follow that channel like you are sailing a boat through channels of water, channels of energy. We are all frequency. We're all vibrating. And if that flow of energy is all connected, one singular area of definition, doesn't matter how many centers are involved, then you are a single definition. Now, because you are self-contained, as in you have all these circuits firing, all these neurons that fire together, wire together, and they're all consistent, they're all working together, you're generally, not always, but generally going to be able to process information quite quickly, with the exception of being an emotionally defined person. An emotionally defined person will have this triangle over on the right-hand side colored in brown. Okay, so if you've got that, then it'll take some time, most likely, to digest the amount of information that's coming in at you. And when we look at people who are working solo, we're going to look at some different areas of specificity. In this particular activation, we can see an individual, as in, this is somebody who is individually defined. Individuals are very much of their own flag, as in they're going their own way, doing their own thing. And they generally like to do their own thing without being disturbed by other people's whatever. They want to march to the beat of their own drum, especially with this case in this channel. So when other people try to control an individual, anyone else an individual? I have one of those too. Sometimes it can feel like we get sad or depressed when we can't follow the creative pulse of our own individual inspiration, or however it is that we're designed to operate. So we definitely can work best as entrepreneurs. Anybody who's individual is one of those people who may be able to, and solo, may be able to work independently on your own, because you process information independently, as in you don't need an other comparatively to people like me who are basic splits. So two areas of definition. Two areas of definition might be able to, or may be able to work solo. It depends on other factors too that we will go into. So with the single definition, remember, singles are here to be incredibly, let's say that for this one, I keep wanting to go into self-empowerment because I can see the individual on the channel, on the slide, and it depends on what your specific gate activations channels are. You can be very successful, satisfied, peaceful, surprised, or not surprised. Surprised is for reflectors, no definition. If you're operating in alignment with your authoritative principle, meaning your body is the first, foremost, and final say when it comes to going your own way, doing your own thing. Now, some of you, depending on your design, may be much better as a leader, but from the outside of a group dynamic. And that's one of the things we're going to explore if you continue on in this journey. But for now, remember, you're solo defined. It depends on your type. And we're going to get into that shortly after this section. So now with the split definition, you may be able to work solo. However, you're best designed to be in partnership with others. You need that regular connection with an other. And the reason for that is without an other to bridge, think about this like, again, boats through channels, we have no bridge. We need another to bridge that split. So if you just soft gaze on that image right there, you see how this other image shows the bridge for that particular dynamic. That's the ideal, where we have a single definition that actually comes in and bridges your split definition. Because otherwise, if you're just bridging each other through gate activations, it's an illusion of true, authentic bridging. This is the ideal. Now, we live in the real world, and it's not always that we have the ideal. So remember, your authority rules the roost, as in it's going to tell you what's right for you. So you may be able to work solo at times. However, the regular connection with others is going to be so much more helpful, fruitful, important for you to be fulfilled. Because long-term, it can be very isolating to work at home in your own aura. I can remember working at home in my own aura alone and feeling this like restlessness, like I needed to go outside. And it's just like gathering auras. We go out, we mix and mingle. You don't have to work with those people, but definitely get some movement through different places and spaces that you enjoy, and you'll find that you feel better when you come home. Anybody else have that example or that experience? Once you experiment with it, you may find that your productivity rises. So those of you who are basic split like me, this is a wide split, a whole channel. If you're having trouble being productive, go out for a bit. Experiment with gathering energy, auras, moving through wherever it is that you'd like to engage with, and then see if that helps you assimilate information. Again, this is about being fulfilled as yourself in business. Now, the triple split, 3 islands of definition, what we're looking at are people who actually can work well solo, which is kind of an interesting thing. You would think that, oh, these are not, they need people. Well, yes, they do. The most important thing for a triple is to actually have movement through different groups of people. Now, because if they are a definition that can work well solo, like the single definition, like the triple split definition, they're going to have their own way, their own context, their own timing. It is about you experimenting to see what's right for you. It may be that you need to do this every day. Naraya is one of those people who actually is designed like this as a triple split. And she calls it aura washing, where she goes out and she moves and it helps her synthesize the large amounts of information that she's designed to process. And information is the whole name of the story as far as the game of being yourself in business. You've got to process things. You've got to take advantage of new ideas, new challenges, new ways of being and working in business, especially in today's day and age where technology is shifting things so fast. You know, AI, maybe it feels like, it's replacing you in business, but truly it's about changing your career or your work or your business. So taking advantage of the large amounts of information, that's what triple splits are here to do, synthesizing through moving between groups of people. It's not that you have to work with or in the group. This particular example has 2 large group channels, so moving through larger groups may feel more satisfying for this being. Okay, so now the quadruple may work well solo. However, the thing about this one is they're very rare again, 0.5% of the population approximately. So we're looking at people who are very fixed when it comes to processing things at definitely a slower pace. They can be way more subjective and play favorites when it comes to working. So while some people may say, oh, it can be simpler just to do your own thing, you know, be your own boss, go your own way, a generator, because most of them will be generators, they're going to have either 8 or all 9 centers defined, generally wants to be around people. Now that's generally, not always. Since these beings are pretty fixed, sometimes it's easier to work well solo because it's harder for other people to mold themselves to them unless they have a lot of openness. Others have to adjust to the quadruple split, so it can be challenging. Generally, when I say favorites, we're talking about 2 different people that the quadruple likes to hang out with or be with or process things with or strategize with or whatever, discussing things with. So although they may work well solo and it might seem like, oh, I'm just going to do my own thing, ideally these beings are going to look for 2 different people that bridge their split. Do you remember how I was saying the split definition is looking for somebody to bridge the split? This one is 2, as far as 2 different beings, and that's the difference. But they're looking for very specific people, whereas the triple is not looking to be specifically bridged. They're looking for large amounts of information to assimilate and digest and process through all of their circuitry. In order to be themselves in business, they have to have that movement. Whereas we who are basic splits, we're looking for very specific people generally. Moving through a group can be able to help us temporarily, but there's going to be some specific activations that we prefer, just like our quadruple split, specific people that we just simply prefer. Okay, we have some, you could say, favorites with the quadruple split. Now, no definition is our last one. When we take a look at no definition, we're talking specifically about a reflector type. They are like the moon with its many changing faces over a month. So they could work solo. However, they are designed to be the barometer of a larger group. So working at home in your own aura, you may not feel very productive if you're attempting to do that all day, every day. Yeah, everybody wants a little bit of change or difference or some engagement. And this is what we call a non-energy type. Okay, well, the types we're going to go into in just a moment, they're not all energy types. They're not. So please don't call them energy types, because those of us who are projector and those who are reflector are non-energy types. We're awareness types. So though the reflector can work solo, they can enliven or engage with the energy and reflect or be like the canary in a coal mine that can display the health or the well-being of any group of people, large group of people that they are involved with. So for them, they'll have a knowing suddenly that they need to go and take some time alone or spend time in nature. These are very sensitive beings, as in they're open. And it's not that it's a vulnerability in their case. They're very different from projectors. So why don't we go into that and explore the information about the types? Because as you can see here, I have used as an example quadruple, triple, split, and single, one type of human being, because they are the vast majority of human beings. That red square means that you're a generator. So generators are very different than projectors or manifestors, and especially reflectors. So with definition, we've gone through to see, let's give a review, to see how your productivity level working solo might show up for you. Again, step one is definition. So singles may work very well, again, depending on your type. Triples can work well. Quadruples may work well. None can work. And the split may be able. So anybody out there with your basic split to islands of definition, you may be able sometimes, and maybe most of the time, that's not working out for me. So I'll tell you a little secret that when I first studied the human design system and I was working with LaVeena Archive, they hired me in 2014. One of the things that I got from them as part of my work trade agreement was access to BG5, or the career and business analysis information of the human design system. And I was all excited, and I asked Jacqueline, Ra, who passed, his wife, now ex-wife, if I could analyze LaVeena Archive as part of my experimentation. And she laughed and she said, well, Ra said that it's actually dependent on who's physically in your aura. So because Jovian is spread out all over the world, it wouldn't work for me to analyze their penta. Not really. It's better to look at who's in your life physically. So here's my secret. My husband and I both work at home together. Although we are like way on opposite ends of a 6,000 plus square foot house, we are definitely in our own aura. We do come together and we are able to commune, sometimes commiserate, or celebrate, depending on what's going on in our lives. So we have access to each other, but we are working independently. Now we're both individual energy projectors, not energy types, but energy projectors with the same authoritative channel. So it works really well because we get each other. It's one of the ideals to have is type with type, okay? Aura with aura, as in what we're moving towards. And it works really well for us. Not saying that that's what you want to go to, obviously use your own authority, but I'm telling you, this is one of the secrets to my success is being able to work at home alone in my own sovereignty, being my own boss, and then using him, his energy, his advice, his guidance as an advisor for me. Because I'm a basic split, okay? A basic split needs that connection. So it says may be able. Yeah, I may be able, but as long as I am feeling correctly in my body that it's right for me to do so. Okay, so that was step one. we are going to go to the top of the hour and then just check in and see what questions you might have. And we'll stay beyond to do a little bit more information today. We're going to do the full presentation. I was considering whether or not to stop, but I can feel that I've got the energy to be able to give you the full presentation and help you go through even the other considerations. Okay, so if you do have questions after that, we'll see how much energy and availability we have to enjoy the rest of this material. Again, you've got questions there in the chat. If you feel like you want your question to be answered at the end, you can go ahead and use the Q&A box as well. Okay, so what is your form? Form follows function. Your function in this life has to do with your aura. Your aura builds the body. It is not the other way around. So the aura frequency, or auric energetic frequency, so a generator is an energy type, a manifestor is an energy type, or these non-energy types, the projector and reflector, are going to all operate differently depending on your chemistry. So depending on your definition, what channels are actually there. There are tons of subtypes when it comes to the information within your genetic potential. So we're going to look at this generality. Remember that you are a specificity, and there's going to be different things that might change the way that you show up. As an example, LaVeena is an energy projector. Mel, on the other hand, that you saw and heard earlier, she is a non-energy projector. She's a classic projector, which is way different than a mental projector. So there's always going to be other factors or considerations, but generally we'll look at form. First things first, we need our manifestors. Our manifestors are the ones who get things going, started, initiated. They inform in order to impact. That is their strategy. So informing us in order to get the ball rolling, to get things started, like Ra did with his initiation of the human design system into the world. So manifestors initiate, projectors distill that powerful initiation, and they use their system's mastery in order to process, synthesize, collaborate, whatever it happens to be, this guidance process or advice. They are the advisors who can guide. So manifestors and advisors can work really well together. It's one of the things that we're going to be exploring if you go into leadership success. Now, generally, type with type works really well. However, we're not always going to find that. When it comes to generators, these are the vast majority, about 66, 67% of the population. So generators have two basic subtypes, of which they can either be emotional or non. So we're looking at pure generators or manifesting generators. You're still a generator because of that red sacral square that I showed you earlier in the presentation. Okay, that's the most common definition currently that we have. So generators are the ones who are here to work. Their energetic frequency or availability is here to be satisfied with the work that they do, oftentimes initiated by the manifestor. So a manifestor initiates, the generator responds. The manifestor is here to have its piece of impact. The generator is here to have satisfaction of who they are for themselves. If they can't be who they are for themselves, if you can't be who you are for yourself, you're going to feel dissatisfied, frustrated, maybe even angry if you are not operating in alignment. So if you're mostly dissatisfied, frustrated, or angry, especially if you're angry as a manifestor, you really need this course because you want to get out of that stagnation or stuckness that's leaving you in a state of dysregulation or upset. And you want to get on track and on path and purpose. And this is the way to do it. Align with your form. Your body is the life. So the response, those generator response mechanisms, the response has energy. But the people that work really well with those generators happen to be projectors, especially when it comes to work. This is the ideal partnership, is a projector, hi, that's me, and a generator. And the reason being is because the generator needs to be asked or have something to respond to. Whereas the projector is here to guide and advise other people's energy. They're here to know who other people are. They're here to master systems. This is where you get your success projector. If you're someone like me, we're projectors here, and we are here to master a system of knowledge, whatever body of knowledge tickles your fancy. When it comes to the group dynamics, projectors can master human dynamics. However, group dynamics is not your sweet spot. You work best one person at a time. So your productivity is not going to be the same as far as successful when it comes to you being in your own aura versus working one-on-one, solo as in your own aura versus in partnership. Okay, so you're not going to feel so great when you're in a small group or a large group if you're not designed to handle that energy. So if you're an alpha, a leader, a manager, team lead, the person who's large and in charge, you can set your own timings for how you're going to engage with other people's energy, as in have your own office. That's the ideal for a projector. You're designed to be an alpha and work one-on-one. Alpha means leader, basically. Now, a reflector, non-energy type, can work well at the center of a large organization if you are recognized for what you're here to offer. As a reflector, you're a barometer, cosmic judge, I would call you, as far as what is going well within the group context or not. So you have freedom to move around and you'll feel better. Don't have freedom locked in an office. I remember the first reflector I ever did an analysis for in a basement, and he was designed to be a daylight person, a basement office in a bullpen, and he was just dying to get out of it, not healthy, not aligned. And the group dynamic that he was in, that was part of what he was reflecting. So being able to move around is one of the things that the reflector has a secret key code to experiment with in the larger grouping, not necessarily solo. Solo, it might feel like you don't get enough energy, things done necessarily. It depends on who you're with, again, the context within which you find yourself. So remember how we're talking about aura dynamics, energy dynamics, 2 arms lengths distance. So that means if you are sleeping and there's a wall between you and another person's bed, you're sleeping in their aura or you're working in their aura. So do remember, if you live in aura boxes, like a very small condo, high rise or something like that, to take this into consideration, okay, as far as working. So generators, again, about 66, 67, projectors 23-ish, manifestors 10%, although they are on the rise, and reflectors approximately 1%. So part of how they're here to operate together, which is one of the dynamics we're going to go into in leadership success. What is the dynamic between each of these different types in the work context as far as how you're going to get the best out of each other? Manifestors, again, are here to initiate. And that initiation is so that they can get things going for the generator to provide that energy to move things along. And the projector guides the energy, while the reflector is the barometer of the health, safety, security, well-being, satisfaction, success, peace of that environmental human context. So when it comes to solo working, a generator definitely can. Now, some more than others, which we're going to go into at the third layer or level of information here, depending on your design. So it can be helpful for you to have others to ask you questions so that you can properly respond, as in maybe you want to bounce your ideas or your situation off of somebody else. These are people who are, let's say, as an example, if you're a generator with a basic split, remember that's better to be collaborative, and you're working at home in your own aura all alone, you may want to get a coach, okay, or be a part of a mastermind or some kind of group in order to move things forward together. So it depends on your design context. Your aura is generative, and that means the energetic frequency is there to be satisfied and productive. This is the productivity engine of humanity. So that means then your flow of energy when you're doing what you want to do for yourself, because it is about you, after all, this is the school of enlightened selfishness, according to Ra Uru Hu. The energy that operates from you, from within you, being emanated, pulsing, vibrating, broadcasting, is going to feel satisfying for us to be around, those of us who are open. And when you're doing and being who you are for yourself, doing what you love to do, that satisfying energy engine is the new currency as we move through this background frequency into 2027 and beyond. The empowerment of your satisfaction of a job well done, doing it for yourself. It can sound selfish, but it is what you are here to find for yourself, find out for yourself. It is know thyself, be yourself in order to love yourself completely and unconditionally. And then that satisfaction of you being who you are for yourself is going to be a part of your day-to-day experience. And you'll find that you get exactly what you need, no more, no less, when it comes to material success. Now, it may take you some time to get there, but you have to experiment with this, follow your decision-making process, which is wait for an energetic response. And then further too, if you have the energy of the emotional system, the solar plexus, also defined, because that means you need time or to be patient and to wait. And this is not about initiating. This is about responding from that inner knowing or felt sense of energetic availability. That's the key. You are respondable, as in you have the ability to respond. And when that energy arises from within your lower dantian, think about right above your pubic bone, that is the place to base your decisions from. Unless you are emotional, then you wait further for clarity, the clarity of availability. Now, when it comes to working alone, again, remember, this is about the generator can. Now, not always. It depends. There's going to be one more step that we're going to go move into. The furtherance of our understanding is about seeing the relational dynamic between the types of beings that we have. Again, remember, generator and projector are best in partnership at work. This is work. And solo is not ideal for a projector. Remember how I told you my secret was to be able to work at home alone and yet still have connective fields with my family, my husband here now, my daughter just left, as in she went off into the world. So when it comes to being a projector, you're going to need some energetic availability of other people to guide. And primarily we are built to help the generators, although we can absolutely advise manifestors. Oftentimes, they're not looking for our advice. They may inform us about certain things, and we can inform them back. But when it comes to being successful as a projector, it is not about slaving away and just slogging through and forcing yourself to do, because doing is not the thing. That's generator business, as in the generators are here to be the fecundity of our life force, as in the generative engine of humanity. Without them, just rip out that sacral center, we would not be alive. These projectors are here to guide the generators. So we work best one-on-one, as in a partnership. Even if you are a single definition, I say as an example, Mel's going to be helping guide and advise the solopreneurs. She can tell you what it's like to try and do things alone without somebody to work with, to work on, to advise, to guide. It just doesn't work. Now, the projector, its keys to mastery or success is to be able to have a system. Systems of knowledge are one of the things that we are here to be able to master. And that's how we get to success. The sooner you get to that place of mastery, systems mastery, the more that you will be able to have the success that you so richly deserve, projector. You're designed to lead, some of us more than others, but guide the process, guide others, and we work best one-on-one. So something like this, where I don't have to work with you each individually right now. I am focusing primarily on the slides, works best for me. Whereas, a singular focus. Whereas I have assistants. My other two lovely ladies are projector team that's going to be helping you on Saturday, should you want to continue, in order to ensure that everybody's needs get met. So we do need to connect with others for energy. Without you to here be able to watch me, I'm designed to be observed, I would not have the energy to do this with you. So remember, different people operate differently. These are the projected channels, okay? Projected channels. So when the energy down here does not reach the throat, we have a projector. The projected channels, as long as the energy does not reach the throat, creates a projector. Okay, so we have two different kinds of channels. Channels that are connected to energy and channels that are not connected to energy. Remember that the projector is a non-energy type. So that energy does not touch the sacral and it doesn't touch the throat. So we're looking at non-energy beings. We are here to advise. We are the advisors who can guide. And we are ideally designed to be alphas. Alphas are one of the things that we're going to be talking about as a context. As you continue on in this series, you'll learn more about what I mean by that, particularly when we get to the small group dynamic. Okay? So back to our types. Again, remember, manifestors often work best solo. They work best solo because they're not built for groups. Ra reiterates this as part of his teachings, that they're not designed to work in small or large groups necessarily, even if they have one of those channels. It is just not their thing. Why? Because they are designed to do their own thing. Their aura has density. It has an impact. And informing others before taking action is one of their keys to peace. This is the way that they are designed to function. So it's the experiment of seeing, does anger, irritation, resistance release if you find your peace through informing, through having freedom of action? This is the thing that you want to experiment with, your key takeaway. You often work best solo. Have you noticed? It is one of the things that you might experiment with, if not. Okay, so your aura type being manifesting, we're looking at anger as a result of showing that something is off. You're either maybe not in the right place. This is not the right situation. This is not correct for you to do if you're getting irritated or angry. Okay, so informing before taking action. These are the primary manifesting channels. We can also have manifesting energy if the energy does reach the throat through these projected channels. So we have a different kind, a subtype of manifestor, okay? Many different subtypes that you will explore and glean the leadership keys from each of these subtypes as we continue on in our journey. Now, last but not least, we see reflector, and they can work solo, yet, because they are designed to evaluate, particularly the larger groupings, or be the hub, the judge, the barometer of a larger group. It may be better that they focus on their facilitation skills, as an example. Because they're a non-energy type, it may be better that they focus on developing intellectual property. This is one of the things that the reflector can use in order to find their material success potential. Because they're here to enliven and lift up the energy of others, because they are completely open. These are all reflective channels. Did you know you have a reflective channel? Everybody look down at your body graph. You see the totally open channel, as in it's white, it's not colored in, it's not fixed. You have a reflector channel. Doesn't make you a reflector, but those beings who are designed to be very different. Who is different? They're here to be surprised and see the beauty, the magnificence, the wonder and awe when they can be themselves through that lunar cycle. They are reflective in nature, like the moon, the many changing phases and faces of the moon. So Give yourself time, reflector, to evaluate whether or not this is right for you to experiment with. Okay, so that was our types. Quick recap before we just check in and see if there's anything that Mel or Naraya want to bring to the table before I move on into some specificities that can be a little tricky. We're looking at solo when it comes to your aura type. So manifestor often works very well, regardless of definition that we spoke about earlier, because they're designed to do their own thing. Yeah, be your own boss, be your own sovereign, do what comes right to you accordingly with your freedom of action. Freedom of action is a key for a manifestor. Generators can work, but again, remember, it depends on the context of their definition, as well as maybe what they're in the mood for, or what other aspects we are yet to explore that we have in store later in this presentation. Projectors may work. Remember, for solo, it's better if we have someone one-on-one to work with, or like in this context, I'm protected in my own aura. This is like the ideal for a projector, not to be quote unquote contaminated by the energetics around me, because otherwise I get over amplified and it's overly stimulating. For some of us projectors, we're more sensitive than others. It depends. If you're too overly stimulated, you might hurry too much. You might get overzealous. You might try to prove things. It's better when you can remain in your own frequency bubble. This is especially true if you're experimenting for the first time with the human design experiment. You have no idea how much other people affect you. The projector especially is going to be aware of that in time if you experiment with it, and you can see what is you and what is not you, who the other is. And that's why the projector may work well, okay, in solo, better in partnership. Okay, reflector could work. And again, because of the specificity of your unique auric frequency, there are other nuances and subtleties.